welcome back. We are joining you morning after the Celtics pretty big win over the New York Knickerbockers, 123 to 117. Matt, how are we feeling over there?
Feeling good. This was the 500th regular season matchup between the Celtics and the Knicks,
I
and
didn't know
in the
that.
course of repeating history yet again, we did pull one out and kind of embarrass New York on our home floor, which feels good. Um, yeah, it was a game of massive runs, and there were some times during that fourth quarter where I believe I texted a group chat that you're in. That game gave me angina. Like my chest was that game almost got away from us. We went into the fourth quarter with like a sizable lead, and then the Knicks had two separate 9-0 runs in that fourth quarter. But glad we were able to hang on. Great Jaylen Brown game, and I'm excited to get into this one because there was a lot going on.
Yeah, this win felt big to me, and I don't entirely know how to describe why. Because I think part of it was just that it felt big because we went on so many big runs. There was swings back and forth. Like it was an exciting play game. Um, Part of it also felt big just because it was the Knicks, and I did feel like the broadcast was trying to make a big rivalry out of Celtics Knicks, which historically hasn't really been a rivalry, but I do
Yeah,
feel like both fan bases kind of want there to be a rivalry there. Like we don't like each other.
I believe at one point during the broadcast, which was on NBC, I enjoyed Reggie Miller's commentary a lot, and him and Costa. Yeah, but they did ask at one point, what's a bigger rivalry, Celtics Knicks or Red Sox Yankees? And
Yeah,
as someone who's like been a Boston fan my whole life and lived in Massachusetts that's not a competition. Like it
no.
really is not. I've never felt any sort of real animosity towards the Knicks. Whereas Red Sox Yankees growing up was like a blood feud. Real feelings involved. The Knicks are just like another team in our division. But yeah, I agree with you. This one felt big. I think being able to take as many punches as we took in that game, I think it was a good like shows what we're capable of game, especially against a Knicks team that like for real stretches of that game was playing extremely well. I thought that Knicks team showed me a lot. They are a very talented team. I thought their passing was incredible throughout that game. So being able to like withstand that, I think we've talked about like we've been on a stretch right now, and we are currently on a stretch where we're playing really good teams. Um, Coming off of a win against Cleveland, we played Minnesota coming off of a win against Detroit and Orlando and like these kind of up high like top teams in the East. This one felt like we played them pretty close to their best. I think they were missing Landry Shamet and I forget who else didn't play for them in that game,
OG
but
Ananobi. That
OG
was their
Ananobi.
big.
Yeah,
He
but
would have been
it feels
useful
like
for them as a guy to just throw on Brown
yeah,
when he was getting hot.
but it
One
feels
thing
like we
that
took pretty close to their best punch and were able to overcome that, and that feels good.
I think another thing that made it feel a little bit like a rivalry is especially when Mikal Bridges was getting hot. Both him and Karl Anthony Towns, whenever they hit a three or had a big bucket, were immediately talking shit to Joe Mazzulla. And I really want to know what Joe Mazzulla did or said that invoked such anger from
Huh?
the New York Knicks. Because I'm sure it was something. Like, Joe Mazzulla, he's not just standing there innocently and having guys scream in his face. Like he did something to start the game that kind of upped the energy level in this game. And I'm hoping it comes out what that was. I might push back on the idea that Cat was like beating us up inside. Cause it was 6'7", 6'6" Hugo Gonzalez that was really shutting him down on the interior.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that second quarter where Ugo and Towns just went mano a mano.
Well, it seemed like whenever he got Hugo in the post, he wasn't looking to score on Hugo. He was looking to get a foul. Like he would turn and try to do like three different sweep throughs and then flail as he kind of like threw an air ball up from 3 feet. Hugo did a great job on him. I thought Jam Packer had kind of the best tweet of the night which was just, can you imagine having to cheer for Karl Anthony Towns night in and night out? Like, that would be a tough guy for me to have on my team and have to kind of defend on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I mean, I was a Carl Anthony Towns fan from afar when he was in Minnesota. He was always like, "Oh, I'd love to have that guy on my team." And as I've like he's moved to our conference and I've seen him more, I'm like, yeah, I mean, he's a great player. I think he's probably the best shooting big of all time, like pure shooting. Um,
Jokic.
Jokic,
Yeah,
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 I disagree,
yeah.
but I think it would be Jokic.
Yeah, Jokic has really claimed that mantle pretty quickly. But yeah, no, I think Ugo in that second quarter again, I thought he got beat a couple times. Clearly, Towns was stronger than him and was able to take advantage of that, but not to the extent of like he couldn't just, oh, I'm gonna post up against Ugo. Ugo drew like had multiple steals, forced multiple turnovers. I thought just all around kind of gave him hell. And even when he wasn't on Cat, when they were sharing the floor, I noticed when Cat was getting the ball in like the high or the mid post, Ugo was doubling and forcing turnovers where Cat was just throwing the ball away. I was very impressed with that matchup, and I honestly was surprised that Ugo ended up uh, not seeing the floor as much later in the game. It seemed like he really showed something in that second quarter, and then kind of wasn't as prominent later on.
I did enjoy that Reggie Miller started this game not knowing who Hugo Gonzalez was, and then was cheering for "Give me more Hugo minutes" by the end.
Yep,
Um,
which is how it goes. If you don't
yeah,
know Ugo, you're about to.
it wasn't a huge stat line game for him. I think he had 3 points, one steal, but he was just, his fingers were involved in every play. There were kind of two stretches where we went with that Josh Minot at the five, go guarding a point guard, but kind of the four small ball lineups. I thought those were really effective in the third, just because on defense we could switch the Brunson Towns pick and roll, and that just forced them into one on one. And that's where we really went on like that big run to get a commanding lead. They kind of figured out that lineup, I thought, in the fourth quarter when they started to go on a run, and Mikal Bridges was heating up, just because if you have if you're playing that small with Minot at the five and Hugo at the one, then he's probably got like a Derrick White or a Peyton Pritchard on him, and he was kind of able to use his size to just get advantages off those match game for us, basically. Like his ability to just get to the rim every time. I think all but one of his rebounds was an immediate putback this
Yeah.
game.
Jordan Walsh's fourth quarter was monumental. Like, we don't win that game unless Jordan Walsh does what he does in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and we don't win this game without a few people. Like, if Minot, Hugo, or Jordan Walsh isn't on our team, we don't win this game. And those are three guys that were complete question marks coming into the season, and now they're who we're relying on to win big games.
Yeah, I think Jaylen Brown had an okay game too. I think that was he did all
Yeah,
right. He was important, but no, those three guys were impressive. I was surprised in the fourth quarter because it did feel like Bridges obviously caught fire, but it felt like they did kind of find something in that fourth quarter when they were going on those like runs where it was just quick 9 points, and we were building leads and then watching them vanish. Where Towns was able to kind of play a little bit more bully ball on the inside, matched up with like Jordan Walsh and Minot, and we didn't really use Nemise Keita at all in that fourth quarter. I think he came in towards the end to like grab a jump ball or something like that.
yeah.
Um, but I wanted your thoughts on that and how we just kind of what you thought about the decision of we're purely playing small ball in this fourth quarter and we're not going to try to like match up size wise with Towns. Because I thought Keita had a good first quarter.
I mean, he was still a minus. Like, he was playing well, but that lineup was getting cooked for the first quarter. And one thing we've seen with Joe this season is he's just going to go where the energy is with any of these lineups. So it did seem like because we went on such a run immediately when he put Hugo and Minot in, that he was just going to kind of ride that small ball till the wheels fell off. And they did fall off, like in that fourth quarter. And I was watching the game, I was concerned. So part of this is a little revisionist, going back and saying, like, well, we won, so I'm not concerned now. But especially when they had, who's their other center when they went two bigs
Mitchell
briefly?
Robinson.
Yeah, when they had Mitchell Robinson in, I thought we were really able to get him off the floor just by fouling.
I would real quick
Yeah.
highlight of the game. The hardest I laughed in this entire game. Amari Williams checks in,
Yeah,
fouls
I was
Mitchell
gonna mention this.
Robinson, checks out, ends the game with 2 seconds played and one foul.
Yep.
Just hacking Mitchell Robinson, who
Robinson.
did miss a free throw, so like it worked, but hilarious.
That felt like Joe Mazzulla doing a prank on me specifically, where I
Yeah.
was like, "Yo, Amari Williams just checked in. Let's
Yeah.
go." And then fouls out of the game.
Yeah.
Just
Literally 2 seconds. I laughed so hard.
hard.
Yeah. And
We
then
did
used Shireman to do kind of the same
same
thing
thing.
immediately after.
We did talk in our last game on if Joe was going to continue going more and more towards the small ball lineups, and or if he was going to, trust Amari Williams or Xavier Tillman. And it seemed in this game like we got our answer that he's going to lean towards either Kada or small ball out there. And the other bigs are kind of break glass in case of emergency, but aren't going to be a big part of our game plan, at least over the
Yeah,
next few
no,
games.
no Garza, no Tillman, and 2 seconds of Amari Williams was a little surprising. Just
Yeah,
at least like depth wise, I thought like those guys would
especially
get. They've been getting like 5 to 9 minutes sometimes, and it was surprising to see them get nothing.
especially
Um,
against a Knicks team that has a lot of size to it. Like
yeah,
tomorrow we're playing the Wizards without Alex Sarr. So I'm just there's
I'm
no way
excited for that.
we're
Yeah,
no Alex Sarr and no Chris Middleton, it looks like.
yeah.
So I can't imagine we're gonna have to go away from our small ball lineup against them. Like they're not gonna be able to punish us for going small half as much as the New York Knicks were. Um, so unless we're
I
going up against Denver or one of these huge teams, I think this might just be closer to the rotation we're gonna see.
Yeah, I do think I want to push back on something you said a little bit ago of that first quarter we were getting killed in those Kata minutes, and that's kind of what pushed us to go small for the rest of the game.
I
I
don't think it
do
was Kata
also,
specific. Like I think I'm
yeah,
not
but
blaming
that
him,
that
but those
lineup,
minutes, yeah.
yeah, and I want to say like Jaylen Brown, obviously 42 points, had himself a hell of a game, came alive in that second and third quarter, and was phenomenal. Um, in that first quarter, had like four pretty quick turnovers, and like
And was
that first
not playing
quarter.
good defense.
Yeah, that first quarter was the story of like what's going on with Jaylen Brown, and then he really
Yeah.
turned it around the rest of the game and kind of made everyone forget about that. But like the Knicks built that quick lead off of Jaylen Brown turnovers, so it's like I don't know that that was as much of a lineup thing as just like he ate some popcorn before the game or something. Um, but I do almost wonder going to like tomorrow's game against the Wizards because we're playing like a 5 games in 7 days stretch. I do almost wonder if we're gonna see more of the bigs tomorrow because it feels like that's a game that we can kind of win and get some guys some rest. So it's almost like they don't have Alex Sarr, they don't have Chris Middleton. Like we might see like 20 minutes of Luka Garza just because he'll be able to get a million offensive
That's true.
rebounds against like a depleted Wizards team. Um, and so I'm curious to see how that goes. But I do think in like real games against difficult opponents, and you know, in the NBA, anything can happen any game. But like the fact that this was kind of what we did against the Knicks, I think did show something about kind of the lineups that Missoula is preferring at this point.
Yeah, and I think with Missoula, it's also just who is earning minutes on a given night, where I think it's not always positional. Like, I think just Josh Minot has done more than Luka Garza to this point in the season. So even though he's not a traditional center, he's earned minutes on the court. So he's going to get them over guys who might make a little bit more sense positionally, but just aren't bringing the same level of like hustle and defensive intensity out there. He's also just been shooting the ball great all
I
season,
was
which has
gonna
been a huge
say,
surprise.
yeah,
So
the
if he
offensive
can
versatility.
defend like this and shoot like this, then he deserves minutes on this team, even if Jordan Walsh also needs minutes.
Yeah, and again, Walsh started, but might not ended up with more minutes. I did think it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if it was Costas or Reggie Miller or so. At some point, I believe one of the broadcasters might not hit a three in the fourth quarter, like in the middle of like a Knicks run, and was very helpful in slowing that down. I think they were just like, damn, that's an ugly jump shot, but like it worked. And I was like,
Yeah.
I was watching that game back, like checking out some of the plays from like that first and second quarter, and I was like, Josh Minot does have like an ugly 3-pointer, but it's been working for him this year. And like, as long as he can keep doing that and he's shooting it confidently, um, yeah. So I was pretty happy with his performance there.
Yeah, I do miss ugly jumpers. It's something we don't see as much in the NBA anymore. Like there's no Sean Marion in the
Yeah.
NBA. Everybody's jumper kind of looks more and more the same as time passes. So I'm glad Josh Minot has like a an asynchronous jumper. Just like
Yeah. Pour one out for Markel Fultz and his 17 variations of jump shot.
yeah, yeah, pour one out for Markel Fultz. Still a
Yeah.
free agent.
Yeah.
Um But yeah, the only thing with his jumper is if he could just get a little bit quicker of a
Quicker with it.
release,
Yeah.
then there's going to be so many more opportunities for him to shoot. Where right now he can only really shoot like the corner three if he's wide open. Um, so not like his percentage has been leaps and bounds better than what we thought it was going to be when he got signed for Minnesota, and kind of the playbook on him was like hustle guy can't shoot.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, if he can, like, you see the difference between his shot and Hauser's shot, where Hauser can get it up if
Yeah,
there's a
Hauser's one of
sliver
those
of
guys who
room.
doesn't even have to bring it down. He
No,
catches the ball up and he's already in his motion.
motion. And that just has a lot more value, especially when it comes to spacing, because somebody has to stay like right on him. Where Josh Minot can shoot, but he's almost more valuable in the dunker spot just because um you need to stay right on him when he's in the dunker spot, and when he's on the 3 point line, you can kind of hedge off and try to close some driving lanes.
Yeah. Speaking of the dunker spot, again, Namis Keita in that first quarter, three quick lobs.
Oops.
I think one from White, one from Pritchard, maybe one from Brown. I might be misremembering the third one, but the fact that he's not only he seems more comfortable every lob. It might also just be that the guys passing to him are figuring him out a little bit more and figuring out where to get him the ball. But in the beginning of the season, he would kind of like any lob that came his way, he would kind of have to go get it, come down with it, and then go back up. And it was more like contested layups. Every one of them was like a clean, like finished dunk this time. And I think if that's something that they're able to like build more of a rhythm and build more chemistry to, that makes him much more valuable. And it is something that like I think one of the storylines of this season is how much can Neemias Queta grow? Like, what is his ceiling? And if he's able to just like become a consistent lob threat every game, it's fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think the biggest change has just been his teammates trusting him in those situations where we talked about a lot earlier in the season that he was just open on so many drives and he was open for lobs, and our guys just weren't throwing them up to him. Where it seems like over the past 3, 4 games, the amount of trust that Jaylen Brown, Peyton Pritchard, Derrick White have in Neemias Queta has just grown, and they know exactly where to hit him on those rolls. Jaylen Brown's comments after this game, just talking about how much this group has grown together and how he's like noticed big changes in how well they play together, and he shouted out some of the young guys. Um, has been really fun to see, and was something that I didn't entirely bank on happening this season. Just because we had so many young guys coming in, so many guys that hadn't played together. Um, I think one thing that's kind of fun about this season compared to last is now I can um, get mad at Celtics hate again, where
Yeah,
like in past seasons people never didn't, or last season people didn't really underestimate them because they were coming off a championship, they had the same core, they were going to win 60 plus games. Bleacher Report came out with their over under revisions for this year. So they started the year saying the Celtics were going to win 37 games.
disrespectful.
This morning,
Yeah.
they redid it. How many wins would you give this Celtics team if you were going to, at this point in the
How
season,
many wins
say?
do I think Bleacher Report did, or how many would I?
Give me both.
For me, I think 52.
That's pretty good. I would take 52. Bleacher Report gave us 36. So they went down in their win
They
total.
revised their
They
projections and
revised
went,
their prediction went down. We're already a third of the way.
yeah,
Quarter way through the season, we're a third of the way to their wins total projection. But I guess they needed like more wins to give to the Raptors somehow.
yeah, Bleacher
Oh,
Report, come talk to me. This is
yeah.
ridiculous. Reminds me, I did see, this was like maybe 2 weeks ago or something. I just saw like a Facebook reel of some guys talking basketball, and they were like, yeah, this Celtics team, like they're probably getting a top three pick. And I was like, in what universe? Like, it wasn't that, I mean, again, with the lottery, anything can happen, but they were essentially like, this is a bottom three team. And the amount of slander, it is fun to be underestimated again.
Yeah, it's been a few seasons. Like this used to always be kind of the fun angle on like some of those Isaiah teams.
Yep.
And beforehand was that we would always beat the win prediction by 10, 15 games. And just happy that we're now slept on again because we'll usually overperform when we're the slept on team.
Yeah. And I think to the point when we recorded like our first few episodes, one of the big storylines that we talked about is like this is a fun season because it's been a while since we went into a season being like, I don't know what this guy is, and we have a whole season to like figure it out. We kind of have gone through the last couple of years of like, again, you're never going to be mad at winning a championship and being a 60 win team, like pencil it in kind of a thing. But it is fun to be like, hey, everybody has an opportunity, and let's like find guys who pop out of nowhere. And we've seen that like the most fun players to watch have been like Ugo and Jordan Walsh and Josh Minot, and like I love our core, but like we know what they are, and it's cool to see them perform. But it's really fun to just be like, all right, who else is stepping up today? And yesterday, like it was Jordan Walsh, it was Minot, and Ugo guarding Carl Anthony Towns at 19 years old and doing a great job. Like that's fun basketball.
And just switching back and forth between Cat and Jalen Brunson, like there's
Yeah,
not a lot of guys in the league who can just lock down either one of those guys and switch back and forth. And the fact that he's already there at 19 is just insane.
yeah. Speaking of insane,
Yeah.
revealed during the broadcast, Jaylen Brown has been doing a lot of pool workouts. Jaylen Brown can hold his breath underwater for 5 minutes, and I don't think that's gotten enough attention.
I think that was one of the things in I think media day that he mentioned he could hold it for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
it's what he does physically on the court really shows his preparation, I think.
mhm.
And one of the kind of differences between him and Jason Tatum I've noticed having them on the team this year is whenever we hear them talk about their off-season preparation, Jason Tatum is very basketball focused and he's
Yes.
very focused on like individual moves and individual like actions on the court. I know his trainer Drew Hanlon. I've heard a few interviews with him talking about preparing Tatum for the season, and he's always just like really focused in on, posting up in the high post, spinning left and with a floater, and then doing that 300 times. And since he's been in the league, he's just kind of added one or two tools every summer until he has this like offensive game where
Yeah.
he can do like all of these different variations out of different spots on the floor. Where Jaylen Brown does a lot more cross training and a lot more just like weights and physical attribute building in the offseason. And it's neither one is bad, and they've both worked out tremendously for them. But Jaylen Brown, every year he comes back and is like a little bit stronger and a little bit faster, and is just this season is like knocking dudes off their spots, not getting tired. Like you can hold your breath for 5 minutes. That means
Yeah.
you can play an entire run of basketball without breathing. Like
Yeah.
that opens up so many doors just for your cardio.
I was gonna say like this started a couple, and I think it's a great point. The difference between those two guys, and it is really fun. Of like Jason Tatum off-season footage is gonna be him like practicing a new move, and you're like, oh, that's gonna be so sick when he uses that in a game. And then you check like Jaylen Brown's Instagram, and he's like, yeah, I'm in Taiwan studying kung fu for 3 months. Like that, he's been doing that for years, and like it is really fun to see like the progression of how that's helped him in different ways. And I think it's something Wembenyama just went and like studied at a Shaolin temple for a couple weeks or something like that this offseason. So it does seem like there are more guys doing this kind of like eccentric, like basketball, maybe related but non-basketball kind of training that seems like it is paying dividends, and it is just it's fun to watch.
Yeah, cross training's always kind of been a thing. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was always famous for it, like going and learning kung fu or just doing like soccer workouts for a year. Um, a lot of it has to do with you're not doing the same movement patterns over and over again, so it kind of spares your joints
Yeah.
um, from just like dunking and landing so many times. Um, But yeah, I think both work, and like Jason Tatum always shows up in great shape. Like neither of these guys you have to worry about
Yeah,
showing up out of
it's
shape in
just
the
two
off
different
season.
approaches, and it is like it is a very cool. Those guys have been kind of yin and yang since they got into the league together. Tatum a year later, but it has been really. I think one of their first like proposed nicknames was like Fire and Ice or something like that, and it does seem like their careers they've kind of been playing those roles in a way.
Yeah, one guy that we didn't touch on that I wanted to kind of shout out was I thought this wasn't Anthony Simon's best game. Like he didn't get super hot, but I think this might have been his best approach game where he wasn't shooting the three super well, but it was probably his best defensive game. He played some really good minutes on Jalen Brunson. And then also he was just like really pushing in transition. You could tell that from especially the Timberwolves game. He's kind of turned up his pace a lot. And then he just seemed a lot more comfortable last night playing with Jaylen Brown on the court and kind of picking his spots to attack and not needing like a 6 or 7 dribble setup to score. Um, so I really liked what I saw out of him, and if he can kind of keep that approach and then also get hot from time to time, I think he would be a much better fit on this team.
Yeah, and I think there was one play that I was really impressed with. I think he was a much more like willing, natural passer in this game, where in the past it seems like I've kind of criticized his playmaking in stretches because it seems like he's sometimes forcing passes and he's been throwing the ball out of bounds occasionally. In this one, it seemed to come a little bit more naturally. There was one really nice, like over the top, like over three defenders pass to Jaylen Brown for like a nice layup. And I think, yeah, it does seem like he's settling into more of a like bench playmaker role than just pure bench scorer. And if he's able to continue that and build more chemistry with guys and not need to kind of like stall the play out by taking his usual dribbles, I think that really like helps again just with like the flow of the offense and him being he's been a better defender this year than I ever saw him in Portland, but it seems like
Mm.
he's really kind of committing to that. And if he's able to be a better team defender, because he's been solid one on one for stretches this year, but it's really just like not losing his guy when he's guarding someone off ball. And if he's able to do that, I like our bench.
Yeah, part of it I think was just that his issue this year has just been getting over screens. Like if he
Yeah,
could just get past a screen, he would be fine. And we were able to get Minot covering Towns enough that they really just stopped setting screens and started ISOing because they knew if they pulled up the screen with Karl Anthony Towns, then they'd be getting a better defender on Brunson. So I just think they kind of played towards his strengths a little bit. Um, One last piece of just Knicks shit talking I wanted to bring up since we
Yeah,
might
yeah,
not
yeah.
get a chance before. I don't know if you listened to Pablo Torre yesterday.
I
He
didn't get a
did
chance to yet.
he did an investigative piece on New York Knicks previous center Tom McMillan and his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. I did check.
Okay. Yep.
No former Celtics have been tied to Jeffrey Epstein. So I count that as a point for us in the rivalry.
Yeah, and you know
I
what?
just
It's
want.
crazy. As soon as you said it, I was like, and I wouldn't expect them to be.
Yeah,
That's not a
no.
Celtics thing to
It's
do.
not a
No.
Celtics thing to do. Very much a Knicks thing to do.
Yeah. Okay. That's a
Yeah,
relief and good to
yeah.
hear. And
So
sorry
far,
to
we're
you
in the
Knicks
clear.
fans. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that that's what you guys support, apparently. Um, yeah, no, that's oh wow. Pablo Torre really doing some wild investigative reporting. Very very fun to watch.
Uh,
Speaking of
yeah.
investigative reporting,
Yes.
there are two stories that have come out in the last 24 hours around the NBA, and
Can
I'm
I can
curious
I
which one you
can I
Ooh,
bring
hit
up the
me.
biggest story that's come out around
Yes.
the NBA?
Yep.
Um, we got him. The main Celtics have signed Keon Johnson.
All right, so there have been three
Three
stories
huge
around the
stories. Yeah.
NBA. That feels good. I like Keon Johnson a lot. Um, so the main Celtics sign, we didn't get him on a two-way. Like, there's
He's in
no.
his fifth NBA season, so he is no longer eligible for a two-way, but he has signed to the main Celtics. So
So there's no like,
if you,
how do
this
we?
if
We
this
would
is a
have to like
podcast where
cut someone and then offer him a new contract to get him
yeah,
on this. Okay, all
I
right.
think it's more likely that he'll be like a training camp deal next year, and depending on how
Yeah.
many roster spots we have open, like he's in our system now, you know?
Well, I think the bigger takeaway from
Yeah,
this is the main Celtics are cruising to a G League championship, I think, because they've
yeah.
still got a Amari William games going on.
Ron
He'll
Harper
be he'll be
Jr.,
sent. Ron Harper
Max
Jr.
Shulga.
Shulga has been doing great. Now they got Keon Johnson. Like their point of attack and defense is it's gonna be good.
And we still have a two-way spot open. So if we really wanted to juice our G League championship hopes, there's possibilities.
Maine, you're getting a trophy.
All right, sorry for the mislead. I think the real big story, tied with Keon Johnson signing, is Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Hmm.
Brian Windhorst reported this morning that he has asked for a trade this offseason. This comes along with him deleting everything from his social media leading back to the championship and
Everything Bucks related specifically.
I believe he did every post. Like he was just
Wow.
like, my life doesn't matter without
Yeah, I was
championships.
gonna say like I didn't know if he had deleted like his kids' birthday posts or
Oh
anything like
yeah,
that.
those don't
Oh
even
damn.
matter.
Yeah, that's tough. That's
And
a
he
burnt bridge. If
changed.
he's like, I don't want to be here so badly
eh,
that I'm erasing life memories. Okay.
um,
I will quick update. This is live, real time. Just came across my phone from Shams Charania. Antetokounmpo and his agent are meeting with the Bucks to talk about quote if his best fit is staying or elsewhere. So that's happening as we speak.
okay, so it seems like Giannis's perspective is elsewhere,
Yeah.
and the Bucks' perspective is staying. Would be my guess on how that meeting's going to start out, at least.
Yeah. The Bucks, worth mentioning, lost 8 of their last 9 games. So they're not doing great. The Celtics have a better record than the Bucks, which like going into the season, who would have guessed?
If I'm being honest, I'm
Mhm.
concerned by this situation. Because the only way we get in trade talks, the only way they hang on to our phone call for more than 5 seconds, if we call about Giannis, is if Jaylen Brown's name is mentioned. I'm not trading Jaylen Brown. Like, what he's done for this team, like, he's not putting up Giannis numbers. He's not the talent Giannis is. But just, like, as a leader of this team, as a guy who's already won a finals MVP for us, as a guy we know fits with Jason Tatum, I just don't float his name out there. And I don't even think a straight up Jalen for Giannis gets it done.
No, it would
I
take
think
more
what's
for
much
sure.
more likely to happen is if we call the Bucks, it gets leaked out,
And
and
Jalen is
then
very
that
unhappy.
upsets
Yeah.
the locker room. Because that's been
Yeah.
something that every star that's been available, somehow Jalen's name gets thrown in there.
For his
So,
entire career.
entire career. If I'm Brad Stevens, I'm just putting blinders on. Maybe I call to be like, hey, is Bobby Portis or Miles Turner available? Like, maybe
Yeah.
get in on like some.
Miles Turner would be great.
I think either of those guys would be great.
Yeah.
Um, Bobby Portis is at a lower number, so there's something a little more appealing about that. Miles Turner's the better player. Um, but like, keep an eye on it in that way, but don't go all in for Giannis. Would be my take.
Okay. So I'm gonna zag here. And this has been a thing for years that we've kind of talked about. My take has always been there are two guys in the league that I would trade Jaylen Brown for had they were they to ask out. Like this was years back. I was like, if Luca gets mad and wants out of Dallas, I would trade Jaylen Brown in a package for him. Well, that trade went very differently than anyone expected, and he didn't ask out, and it all went to hell anyway. But the other one was always Giannis, and I was like, Jalen for Giannis is like they get a couple years. They get a couple years younger with Jaylen Brown. They get a Finals MVP, a guy who is showing that he can be a number one guy, um, and was like, yeah, it makes sense. I think the fit has always been really appealing. It's also just like, God, Giannis is one of my favorite players in the NBA to watch. Just like talent wise, athleticism wise, the way that he can anchor a defense and support an offense. Like he can be a walking triple double just as well as pretty much any guy in the league outside of probably Jokic. Um, I think he provides a whole lot of things that like I love Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown can't do a bunch of the things that Giannis can, and it is just kind of like which one on paper like sets Jason Tatum up in his return better for a championship, which one is at a position of need kind of more at this point in terms of like having size on the floor, in terms of having a defender that you can an elite defender that you can throw on opposing bigs. Yeah, I don't I actually I agree with you. I don't. Here's also part of it. Do I trust that Jaylen Brown isn't going to ask out someday? Because, and we've talked about this, he did almost request a trade already before from the Celtics. And I believe it was Tracy McGrady who talked him out of it at that
Yeah.
point. But he's mentioned before, like, oh yeah, it would be cool to like go home and play for Atlanta. Like, that's my hometown. Like, and it seems like again he's and through no fault of his own, but he's had kind of a fraught relationship with Boston by virtue of his name has been thrown into every single trade talk since he was drafted, basically. um so I don't blame him at all for having like a sour taste in his mouth about that. But it is just kind of like, man, I think Giannis is going to end up being like a top 10, 15 player of all time. I think he might already kind of be there, just talent wise. And it's tough to be like, I'm not interested at all. I do think you're right that like even picking up the phone on that will cause disharmony. And it's like, if you're taking that phone call, you better fucking make the deal.
Yeah, I don't worry too much about Jaylen Brown asking out at this point. I know he's talked this season about, conversations he had with Tracy McGrady before he signed his last contract with us about how he kind of thought of Tracy McGrady's career as he needed to get out of Toronto to kind of become himself. And Tracy McGrady told him that he wished he had stayed with Vince. And if you have a chance to win, try to win. And if his frustration was that, he didn't really get a chance to explore his scoring, to be step up and be the leader of a team his first, 5, 6 years in the league, because we had so many other guys, then this is his season.
This
This
is a
is
100%.
a
Yeah, this has
hundred
worked
percent
out
his
really
season.
well for like filling that kind of need. My question is, when Jason Tatum comes back, is there going to be any friction in terms of, and again, there's always been stories, and I think it's been wildly overblown of like they both want to be the guy and there's tension and blah blah blah, and they've both dismissed those stories. I think like, is there any on court or on off court? Like Jason Tatum comes back, is he expecting it to be like, all right, I'm the guy again? And Jaylen Brown is like, well, I just spent a season proving that I can be the guy, and just kind of wondering how that's going to work out. Which again, it might be totally fine and it might work out really really well. And I'm not leaning either way. I hope that it works out for the best and that those two guys just like are as 1A and 1B as we have a duo in the league right now. Um, but yeah, it really, it's absolutely no shade on Jaylen Brown. It really is just like how much I think, like how fantastic I think Giannis is the only reason I'm like entertain that trade.
Yeah, and I think they're gonna if they decide to trade Giannis, the return's gonna be huge. Like we haven't seen a, 6 or 7 first round pick trade for a guy in a few years, and I think this would be the next one. For next season, I don't really have that many concerns about them fitting together, just because we also lost a lot of our other offense. Like Drew Holiday is not on the team anymore. That's, 16 shots a game. Kristaps Porzingis isn't on the team anymore. That's another handful of shots. Like there's gonna be shots to go around with this team, and it might mean that Josh Minot isn't getting as many shots as he's used to from this team. It might mean
Unacceptable.
those are the guys that are
Yeah,
going to get
yeah.
their shots taken down. It's not going to be Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum.
I also think like we have guys like Derrick White, I believe, would happily take
Yeah.
8 less shots a game to keep peace in the locker room because that's who he is. But um, yeah, no, I'm. However that situation works out, I am open to anything there. If we keep Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum together for the next 5 years, I'm absolutely thrilled with that. If we get Giannis next to Jason Tatum, I'm absolutely thrilled with that. Um, yeah,
Now the other
there's a
Hall of
second
Famer,
big NBA story. Yes,
yeah,
this one I'm excited about. Yeah.
because this is a guy in Chris Paul that you've been trying to get on the Celtics for over a decade now. I think.
I
Um,
don't know. It's probably been like
he
I
got,
really in I think we just haven't had a Chris Paul on the set. We've had so many all-star point guards on the Celtics in the past decade, and none of them really are like have been primarily able to do what Chris Paul does. And if we can get him to do that off the bench, it'd be really fucking cool.
yeah, I don't see it happening personally. I know he's already announced his retirement for the end of the season. Clippers haven't waived him. They're looking for a trade. So I think he makes high mid-level money. Not mid-level, minimum money, like 2.6, 2.7. Um, I think the two most likely possibilities are one, he just retires. And then second would be the Lakers, just because his family's already in LA. He's established in LA. I don't think he wants to move to another coast just for the last 3 months of his career. Maybe Golden State. Like he's gonna go to one of the older teams. Houston is a possibility. That's
I've
just
heard
like a
Houston
helicopter
floated.
ride from
Well, I've
LA.
also heard if he's like, what does he want? Is it just like I'm riding out this last year regardless, or is it like I've got like 6 months left or whatever, like time to win one? I've heard Minnesota floated for him, and it like is it if he's trying to win a ring, like who does he think gets him there? I could see like The Lakers, you could convince yourself. I think Denver, I don't know how much of a spot there is for him, but Minnesota could sorely use him. It's just whether or not you think they can get there. Um,
I don't know that they could because they have Dillingham and Conley, who don't seem to be playing for Minnesota just based off defense. That they're one of these teams that really wants every single person on their team to like hold up defensively. And since Mike Conley is kind of slowed down with age and Dillingham isn't a super
yeah,
dedicated NBA level defender yet, that they prefer to go without a point guard. Where Chris
I
Paul is
just feel
kind
like
of the
it's
same
taking
thing
a
as Mike
toll on
Conley.
Anthony Edwards.
Yeah, but
Like
it's the
they've been using
choice.
Anthony Edwards as a point guard, and I think that I don't know. I think you run into trouble down the line eventually in the playoffs where teams are able to double or triple him, and they don't really have another ball handler that they trust and have worked into their system. But no, I don't. I don't blame you. Really, like what it is, my Chris Paul like on the Celtics fantasy, and I've also heard he's like really mean and not that great of a locker room guy. That's
Yeah,
what I've heard about Chris Paul. Um,
that
I
is
just
what
think
Tyronn Lue has been saying. So
yeah. Yeah. It's we've never had like a pure pass first point guard, like a we're gonna like he will get Nemise Keita 7 lobs a game. And especially like our bench unit we've talked about, like since moving Pritchard to the starting lineup, our bench unit doesn't really have like a playmaker. Again, Anthony Simons is a scorer who can bring the ball up the court, but is not going to like set up an offense and run plays. Um, and it's kind of like, hey, if you want to fill that role, and like, who knows, like maybe Jason Tatum comes back in March or April or something, and we make a push for it. Like, yeah, it could be fun.
I think the biggest downside of Chris Paul is just going to be on the defensive end.
Yeah,
That he's slowed down with age to the point where he's just going to get picked on every time he's sent out there. He's not going to be able to keep up with guys in the perimeter. It might help your offense a little bit just because, he's probably one of the best 15 passers in NBA history. Um,
but you put him out there surrounded by Jordan Walsh and Ugo Gonzalez, and it's like he's got a defensive back line right
I
there.
I think especially if we're kind of projecting ahead to say that Jason Tatum comes back, I think Tatum really was our bench playmaker in past years, where we would
Yeah,
have him
they'd run like
start
Tatum plus bench
plus
lineups that were
bench.
always really, yeah,
And I think our bench right now is like tailor made to do a Tatum plus bench or a Tatum and Kata plus bench lineup.
yeah.
So I don't really see Chris Paul on this team. I also just don't see what Chris Paul really gets out of this team. Um, but yeah, I wish him the best in health and happiness.
Yeah. I'm sure Chris
I
Paul's gonna be just fine.
I
Yeah.
do want one last Chris Paul moment in a playoff series. If you
Yeah.
could get on a team to get him in position where he could just, for one quarter, get hot from the high key, score 8 points in a quarter.
Yeah.
Um,
This
that'd be
is like
fun.
a culmination of like a mini arc in my life of like you were there in 2021. I was visiting you. You were living in Chicago at the time. I was on a road trip around the country and I drove up to see the game where Milwaukee won the finals against
Yes.
Phoenix, where it was Giannis against Chris Paul. And this is like both those chapters, maybe like Giannis out of Milwaukee, Chris Paul out of a job. Um, it is just like I do think fondly about like that NBA of like that Chris Paul Suns team was a lot of fun. Chris Paul on the Rockets was really fun in OKC. Like he just had a really fun career. Like every team he's
Good.
been on recently.
His
And
old guy career was a lot of fun, where he could kind of
yeah,
go match up with like a young guard, show him the ropes, be
yeah.
veteran Chris Paul.
What
Maybe
if
the
he
Suns will
teaches
take him
Ugo
back.
Gonzalez how to be a point guard? Like what if that happens?
Okay, I'll accept Chris Paul on this team just to be a mentor to Hugo
Yeah.
Gonzalez.
We talked about our last episode as part of your PR pitch for Xavier Tillman was like the unk of the team. What if we hire Chris Paul just to be like a Udonis Haslam unk? I think that could be fun.
That is gonna horn in on Xavier Tillman's space.
Yeah, that's true.
So that
As
is a
as his PR
downside.
rep, we
As
can't.
his PR rep, I'm against
Yeah,
it.
you can't allow that.
Oh,
I think Chris Paul and Joe Mazzulla might get along or murder each other, and either way, I think it would be fun. But yeah, happy trails, Chris Paul. Wishing you all the best.
speaking of how I am Xavier Tillman's PR rep. Um,
Yes,
I've heard that you're jealous of the big bucks I'm making.
that come from
They
being
come
a
from
PR
NBA
rep.
PR.
Yes, so
Um,
I wanted to submit an application to join your PR agency for NBA players.
yeah, we can do a Jason Confused PR
Yep.
agency for
So
NBA players. So
I'm
accepting all
coming.
applicants.
Yep. As part of my application, I did prepare a portfolio of sorts, a hypothetical player that I can PRify, as kind of my like, hey, it might be worth exploring. Let's team up on this. Um, so I was thinking about it after you gave a great pitch for how to revamp Xavier Tillman's image in the
Thank you.
NBA. I was like, well, who around the NBA or specifically on this Celtics team do I think could use some image work? And as I was thinking about it, I came across a video of Derrick White saying that Jason Tatum had told him that he would not respect Derrick White until Derrick White picked up a technical, which he did for the first time in his career at the beginning of this season. Good. But I think Derrick White really needs to build on that respect. And so this is my PR pitch for Derrick White. I think he needs, because you and I have discussed, Derrick White is a league leader in being a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a great teammate. He's a lovable guy. He's just nice. He's nice Derrick White. I think Derrick White needs to lean into his bad boy image a little bit, or create a bad boy image, right? So here's what I envision as part of my PR pitch for Derrick White. And I think by the end of this, Jason Tatum will not only respect him, but possibly fear him in a healthy way. So it
Or an
starts.
unhealthy way.
Yeah, it could be either.
Yep.
It depends which direction he goes with it. But I think it starts first and foremost with the dress code. So what I envision for Derrick White to like really bolster his tough guy routine in a way that's unique to him. Because Derrick White isn't going to go out there, and you had mentioned Xavier Tillman just like fight Ben Stiller. I don't think Derrick White is just going to go out there and start fights.
No, that's not Derrick White.
Exactly in those terms. I think he can start rumbles. So what I envision for Derrick White is show up to every single game for the rest of the season, blue jeans, white t-shirt, black leather jacket. Right?
Ooh, like a greaser.
I'm thinking full greaser. So he's got to lean into that. Anytime he's getting into it with someone on the court, I want him to refer to it, and I want him to be mic'd up and say, are you trying to rumble? I think rumble needs to become a big part of his vocabulary in post-game pressers, in any kind of questions he takes, in mic'd up games. I think he needs to be threatening rumbles all the time. Ideally, he doesn't show up on the team bus and shows up to every game on a dirt bike. I also think in terms of endorsements that he can pursue to like really solidify this image, I think Derrick White should bring back candy cigarettes. Those like little sticks of chalk, like sugar chalk that you can eat. I think that's got to be a big part of Derrick White's like every post-game press conference. He's got to be like putting one of those in his mouth, looking really, really cool, and then chewing it up. Then I'm going to name a couple guys for you. You tell me what they have in common, okay?
Okay.
Jesus Shuttleworth, right?
Yeah.
Shaquille O'Neal, LeBron James, Kevin Durant. What do those guys all have in common?
They played in the early 2000s?
They did do that, but then they expanded by all starring in their own movies.
Okay.
So the next step, after you've established yourself as a tough guy who's ready to rumble at any given moment, ideally as like part of your
the first part of this.
Yeah.
Before we move on to the now, is he like Johnny from The Outsiders, where he's like a greaser with a heart of gold, and like we can kind of see him writing poetry on the sideline, but like keeping it secret?
He does write poetry on the sideline. That is part of this.
This is part of it. Okay. When he does the cool guy flip with the comb, does he just comb nothing, or does he like trim his beard up a little bit? Like how does that work? Because I think combing
this was
hair
something
is
that
a
I
big part of
did
the
think
greaser
about.
ethos.
Yeah, so for everybody listening, Massachusetts has very strict laws about switchblades. So we can't be having any of that. So he gets a switchblade comb. It is gonna have to be for his beard. I did think about like what if we had a switchblade like duster that he dusted off the top of his head, and I dismissed that immediately. It's not a bad boy kind of thing. So he's gonna have to be combing his beard with a switchblade comb. He's got to learn some tricks, like some finger tricks with
Yeah.
the switchblade comb. Um,
I mean,
I
you
think as
can't.
part of his 3 point celebration, he's got to incorporate the snaps
Ooh, I
that they
like
would
that.
do.
I like the
Yeah,
snaps as he's going down the court.
yeah. So he's got to incorporate that. He's got the candy cigarettes. He's got the outfit. So already it's like Jason
Yeah.
Tatum's not going to be intimidated by that guy. But then you've got to expand. You've got to make yourself more publicly known that you've got a different image now. He's not just nice guy Derrick White anymore. So, my next pitch, you've got to be the bad guy in the next Karate Kid remake.
I
I
like
think that's
that.
his next step. And Derrick White is like the guy that the hero is fighting in the final match.
Is he full Cobra Kai in
Yeah.
this?
Yes.
So does he play a
100%.
high schooler who who gets in a
He
fight with
might
Johnny
be
Zuko?
I haven't figured out yet. It depends on what roles are available. I'm willing to talk to agents in Hollywood because I'm his PR rep, so
Yeah.
I've got to work this out. I'm willing to take all offers. He could be playing the high schooler, in which case, to fit with the greaser thing, he's getting a John Travolta in grease wig, and he's
Yeah.
going to be wearing that. Or he's gonna be the adult trainer. And he's gonna like the adult trainer who kind of loses their cool and is like, well, I'm gonna
gonna
fight
fight
the
him.
good guy's teacher. Like that's kind of what I'm envisioning for him. But again, Hollywood agents, call me. We'll talk about a script. We can figure all that out. But that is my PR rep pitch to join the Jays and Confused PR player agency. Um, and yeah, Derek White. Think about it. You could
Now,
be the bad boy of the NBA.
is the through line because there's no greasers in Karate Kid. So
Not
is the
yet.
through line just that these are both Ralph Macchio movies?
They were until Derek
Until
White
Derek White.
became the figurehead for that character. Yeah.
Or does Derek White just keep reenacting different Ralph Macchio movies to try to kind of absorb Ralph Macchio's bad guy outsider? No.
He's got to go in there in the full leather jacket on a dirt bike, whatever, and stick him up with the switchblade comb. I think that's got to be part
What
of
if it-
it. Like we're gonna make headlines. And people are gonna be confused because they're like, Derek White, you have an account. What are you doing here? But I think he's just really got to lean in. I think it's unacceptable that you can be like a phenomenal defensive stopper, a huge part of our offense. You helped us win a championship, and Jason Tatum still doesn't respect you because he doesn't think you're a bad boy enough. I think that's a fixable problem. And I think the only way to fix it is to really lean into becoming a 1950s kind of greaser, bad boy, like Karate Kid villain. And I think that's achievable for him. So again, like Derek White, let me know. We'll talk about it and we can figure this out.
I like it. I do like the idea of also throwing like a My Cousin Vinny in there if we want to keep going with just Derek White doing Ralph Macchio roles. Because it does seem like a lot of this is very 80s themed aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
So like in the off season, he gets lost driving through South Carolina with his Jewish best friend, and they have to call like they get scared and in jail, and then they have to call his like Italian cousin to come pretend to be his lawyer.
Yeah, but my whole thing is I don't think Derek White can ever show fear again. I
Okay,
think
so
that he can write poetry on the sidelines and that's it. Like otherwise, stone cold killer
just cool
snapping his
guy
way up
Ralph
and down the
Macchio
court.
movies.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, I'm with it on the snaps. Derek White, please reach out. jasonconfused@gmail.com.
Yes.
All right. Thank you all for listening. I think
Yeah, it's been a great
I think that'll
episode.
be a good ending point. Jason Confused. See y'all next time.